Good morning. Welcome to service. We thank God our weather is getting better. I mean, you don't seem excited. It's getting a bit warmer. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, let's get into our studies. Let's get into our studies. So last week, anybody remember what happened last week? Anybody remembers what happened last week? Last week, what did we learn last week? What did you take home last week? Yes, it's time for Bible studies. Yes, who is talking to me today? Last week, what was your takeaway? There's somebody at the back. Your takeaway from last week's studies. Edward at the back, yeah.
Pretty much one thing that I got out of Bible studies last week, it was pretty much the idea of, because like we were talking about like God's sovereignty and God answering prayers,
Okay,
and so
that's good. Yeah, the sovereignty of God. We talked about the sovereignty of God, and today that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue talking about the sovereignty of God. Who else? We talked about praying with a fist and praying with what? An open hands. Do you remember that? What does it mean to pray with a fist? What does it mean to pray with a fist? Because Sister Sedam is looking at me. She's like, I wasn't here. I don't know what you are talking about. So, what does it mean to pray with a fist?
Praying with a fist means to pray without compromise, not wanting to compromise. You're bent on what you want, and
Okay.
you're demanding it from God.
Okay, yeah, that is when you are saying that God, I must have it. I don't care what you think. I must have it. And the danger of praying with a fist is that God will have to give way because you are a free human being and God will not force your hands to do his will. Because the moment you are like, God, I must have this thing, then that thing has become an idol and God will have to let it happen, And sometimes when it happens, it's dangerous for you because you don't know what having that thing will do to you. But God knows. And that is why sometimes the best thing that God can do for you is not to give you what you want. Are you following? Yes. Okay.
To give the illustration that you gave.
Okay.
I think that was very powerful. But let me change, if you wouldn't mind, change your word a little bit.
Okay.
You said that when you pray with the fist, and then at some point, God will have to give way.
Yeah.
I want to replace that to say, God may have to give way.
God may have to give
If you
way.
say will, then it means as if, like, if we really claim that we are playing with the fist, that God will definitely do it.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
The example that you gave, I think it was very, very powerful about the young lady who was praying to go to Canada.
Yeah.
I think you should tell them the story,
Okay.
and that will give them a perspective, including our class prefect. It will help her.
She
She
was-
was on your line.
She was online. Alrighty. Anybody remember the story? So last week we talked about a story about a young lady, true story of a young Nigerian lady. She was in Nigeria and her boyfriend was in Canada. And this young lady was praying to God to get a visa to be with a boyfriend. And she got denied 4 times. And eventually when she got the visa, she got to Canada, and then a few weeks later, the boyfriend killed her. And then the issue was, did God answer her prayer? Did God answer her prayer? And so that is what we dealt with. We looked at that story from the biblical aspect. We don't know the totality of it, but at least we can make a biblical perception. You get it? We can make a biblical perception that this is a possibility of what could have happened behind the scene. And what we said was that it could be possible that she was praying with a fist, whereby she got to the point that she must have it. Her coming to Canada became an idol. And when it becomes like that, like Elder said, God may give you into your will. when you go into the scriptures, you see so many examples whereby you see this phrase, God gave them to something. Something that they were insisting on, and that is something that we find in the sovereignty of God. Okay? So today we are going to continue. Now, last week, Sister Abigail asked a question. I was watching the video and I saw that I didn't answer her question. Because in the midst of we talking back and forth, I realized I didn't address her question. So, Sister Abigail, I'm sorry, and I want to address your question. She asked the question. She was like, so I'm throwing your question back to you. Is God a better parent? I mean, are we better parent than God? Right, Sister Abigail, remember that? I never answered you, and you didn't prompt me. I never gave her an answer. So, but you see, that the thing is, Sister Abigail already knows the answer. The obvious answer is that, well, we cannot be better parents than God, right? But she needs some sort of confirmation to what she already knows, right? Or let me just say that we need to add some muscle to what we mean that when we say that God is a better parent than us. Because when we look at the example, if you're a parent and your child is holding a knife, you will take the knife from the child. Why then, God knowing that this young lady will go to Canada and die, God will still what? Permit it, knowing very well that this is going to end her life. So in that instance, in that scenario, it makes it look as if God is acting like a bad parent, right? Leaving the knife in the hands of a child, knowing very well that it will harm the child. But this is my muscle to the answer, the obvious answer that God is a better parent than we are. Everything that we are facing in this life, everything that we are going through on the face of this life is not the final outcome of life, of whatever that is going on. Life itself is like a chain of events. One thing leads to another. You are born, somebody else is born, somebody else was born to get you to also to be born. So nothing really ends with you. Are you following me? Nothing really ends with you. You are part of a chain of events, part of series of events that is going on in the agenda of God, in the plan of God. So therefore, whatever that happens on the face of this earth, God is the only one that knows what? The purpose of it. We on this side, we will never know what? The purpose of it entirely. But him on the other side, he knows why this person doing this, how it affects his purpose and his will. Are you following me? Yeah. So we at that point, we throw in the towel and we know that what? God knows best. That is when we throw in the towel and we lift up our hands. We know that we are just part of what? Chains of events leading to an ultimate plan of God. Okay? And that is how life is. That is how life is. Okay? My Victus, increase your volume for me. Yes, Elder.
Thank you, teacher. I just want to add a little bit to the answer you gave her. And that is what we've learned in the book of Job over the years is that for God to allow certain things to happen in our lives, sometimes he does it for his glory to be revealed.
Yep.
Right? Like, so when things happen, then eventually we learn from him, we see how glorious he is or the magnitude of his power. So like you said, a lot of things are happening in life and you look at it, but because he knows the end from the beginning, it is possible that he knows where the young lady who died will end up.
Yeah.
Even if she had lived her life to 90 years old before she died.
Yeah.
God probably already know already, right?
That's right.
And so, therefore, if he allows something to happen to her, how old was she? Maybe like 25, 26?
Yeah.
Whatever age at which he has to allow her to be gone, maybe there are so many other reasons why it will happen, but because we lack that knowledge or exposure, often we look at it and we criticize and we are sad because we miss the person, we mourn.
Yep.
But so there's so many things or so many reasons why things like that will happen, but we do not know. But one thing we know for a fact is sometimes he does it for us to see him and get to know him better. because we human beings, we tend to learn a lot when things like this happen. You know, maybe we can see him and get closer to him after events like this. So
That's
very,
true.
very important. But never could we ever be better parents
That's
than
right.
God.
Never, yeah. So that answers it. Let's go to Psalm number 115, verse number 3. Okay, so let's get to the meat of today's studies. Psalm 115, verse number 3. Are you ready? It says that, but our God is in heaven. He does whatever he pleases. Is God pleased with whatever he does? Question mark. Is God pleased with whatever he does? Yeah, is this a Felicia? You are shaking your head. No?
No, because sometimes we force God to do certain things that were not in his original plan for us. For instance, now I'll give you an instance.
Okay. The mic, we are not hearing you well.
Yeah, all the mics are like that today.
They are low today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for instance, and if you read through the Old Testament, you see a lot of times where the Israelites, you know, they sinned, they did, and God had to intervene, you know. And sometimes he punished them, and
Yep.
some of them even died through that.
Yep.
Is that the will of God? Is God pleased with that? No. It's just the outcome of disobedience.
Okay.
It's what they are. It's
So
what
how do you
is
explain
happening
this
to them.
verse?
He
It's
does
right in-
whatever he pleases. It
So how-
doesn't mean that he's pleased with what he does.
Okay.
That's what he wants to do. That's what it means.
It
He does
means
whatever
he-
he wants to do.
Okay.
That's what it means.
So your definition of the please over there is a want. Is that what you are saying? Are you replacing pleasing over there to want?
Yeah.
Do you agree with Sister Felicia? The verse says that whatever he pleases, he does it.
Yeah, whatever
So
he pleases.
Sister Felicia is saying no. What do you also think? Yes. What do you also think? Is God pleased with whatever he does? Sister Felicia says no. Will I get a yes from anywhere?
Oh, well,
Everybody is
well,
no.
let me add to it. So
Okay.
I can't remember the exact scripture, but it's something like this, that God does not wish that the sinner should perish.
Yeah?
That's what the scripture says.
Yeah.
God does not desire that the sinner should perish, that
Mm-hmm.
everyone should come to the knowledge of Christ. I know it's somewhere in Ezekiel, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
the
it's in
exact-
Ezekiel. Yeah.
So that should explain it. It is not God's desire that anyone should end up in hell.
It
But
is
if
not
they end
God's-
up there,
It is
they
not
end up
God's
there,
desire.
It doesn't please God. He's
Okay.
not pleased with it, but that is the outcome of the lifestyle of the person that ended up there.
Okay.
That's not what God wanted for them. They chose that path. And so when they end up there, God allowed them to go there. But is God pleased? No.
I see. Is God pleased? No. I like the verses that you have given. You've quoted Ezekiel, and it says that God has no pleasure in the death of the wicked. There's also a verse in Isaiah whereby it says that it pleased the Father to crush the Son, to kill Jesus. Have you considered that verse too? It pleased the Father to crush Jesus. How would you explain that?
You are taking the verse out of just like, you have to read the whole chapter to really understand.
You are
that
telling the
particular
teacher
verse.
now to read the context. You are bold. You are really bold. She's very good. To tell the teacher to read the context. Isaiah chapter 53, verse number 10. Brother Victor, you have something to say?
I'm just wondering why wouldn't it please him to kill Jesus?
Okay, I'll give it a shot. Okay, so Bible says, well, he died before the foundations of the earth,
Uh-huh.
right? So it was something that was established. It had to happen, okay? And so it's not a matter of when we come, comparatively, if we look at it, parallelly from what I talked about, somebody sinning, going to heaven, and Jesus coming to save mankind, there are two different, there's a dichotomy. They are not the same, okay? Christ came for a purpose, and the purpose was to die, and he died. So it pleased the Father that he completed his mission. But it doesn't please the Father that you will die and go to hell.
It doesn't please the Father. So are you saying that it pleased the Lord, right there, Isaiah 53 verse 10, it says that yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. That please, I want to understand that please. Was God like, Jesus, I got you on the nail? Is that what is happening? No. So help me to understand. Help me to understand that please. It's the please that is bothering me. To fulfill. When you say you are pleased with something, what does it mean to you? And now you want to do Hebrew and Greek. Now you want to do Hebrew and Greek.
I think this is a problem of contextual meaning, right? Please has 10 million, 10 million understandings depending on the context. All the three pleases we've seen so far don't mean the same thing. The way I look at this verse, it pleased what? Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. Like, why wouldn't he? Because he's doing it for a purpose. And there's the greater purpose is for us. So he's happy that he's reconciling us back through what he's doing. So he will be happy. So if I had a child and I'm disciplining him and no matter how he cries, no matter how much he yells at me, knowing that it'll bring forth good things from me, I will be pleased. Right?
So at that point, when you are beating your son or your child, you are disciplining your child, you are pleased as a father. And is that so? Because of what it will bring forth.
Let me give
Okay, give me an example. But Edward, change this verse to another translation, maybe ESV. Change it to Okay. Yeah. We are cooking something. Now let's look at the same verse in ESV. ESV said that yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. So now please has been changed to what? Will.
But what follows that? It gives the reasons.
No, we are not going to get into salvation, the crucifixion. Yeah.
The reason behind what he did is what makes him willing to do that.
So now, what I really wanted to get out of you to understand the word please here is that there are certain pleas of God in the Bible. You need to know that it is a will of God. And whenever it says that it is a will of God, the will of God cannot be altered or changed by you. Do you understand that? So when you go back to Psalm number 115, verse number 3, when he says that God is in heaven, he does whatever he pleases. You could just wipe out that pleases over there and put whatever he wills. Do you get it? So which means that whatever God wills for you, he is going to get it. You can't change it. He's going to what? Get it. And that is what makes him what? A sovereign God. Are you following me? That is what makes him what? A sovereign God. Now, I know some of us, we have heard the phrase, the perfect will of God, the permissive will of God. Perfect will, permissive will. And then what? Then there's also a good will of God. Is that what you're telling me? There's three of them. What is a perfect will? When we say perfect will of God, what is it? What does it mean? Perfect will of God. It's normally a term as the ideal will of God. And then they have permissive will, which is something God permits because the ideal cannot be achieved. So he has to what? Settle for what? Permissive. I have a problem with that. It doesn't make God sovereign. Because when you read Psalm 115, verse number 3, it says that God does whatever what? He wills.
Yeah. But,
so if God has a perfect will, it should be what? Fulfilled. Yes, Sister Felicia.
So that scripture that you read, it talks more about like I'm trying to remember exactly what it says, but it's like it leads into what you are saying, and what it's trying to say there is that if you give your life entirely to God, then you would be able to know that which is the good, the permissive, and the perfect. So it's not like saying that. Okay, let me come back.
Okay, you think about it.
Yeah.
Anybody has any question? So this is what I want to present to you this morning. You need to understand that there is a will of God, which is known as a decretive will of God, a will of decree. A will of decree is basically something that God, what Psalm number 115 is talking about, verse 3. It is something that God has ordained from the foundation of the world concerning your life, how you fit into the chains of events that happen on the face of the earth to achieve what? An outcome. So a decretive will of God is a will that God has ordained to happen. And before God brings out a decretive will or makes a decretive will known to you, God will have to factor in your human choices, your free will. Okay? Let's look at a verse. Acts chapter number 2, verse 23. Acts chapter 2, verse 23. How many of us believe that the death of Jesus was a decretive will of God? And nothing could have changed it. How many of us believe that? So this is Acts chapter 2, verse 23. It says that this Jesus, now this is the sermon that Peter was given on the day of Pentecost. Pay attention here. The sermon that Peter was given, he says that this Jesus delivered up according to the definite what? Plan. Definite plan and foreknowledge of God. So that word, definite plan, is what we call the decretive will of God. That is what Psalm 115, verse number 3 is saying, that God does whatever He wills. Definite plan. God has a definite plan. And He's in heaven, and He has a definite plan. You know, you can have a plan and you can also have a desire. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Do you know that there's a difference between having a plan and having a desire? What is the difference? Anybody? What's the difference between having a desire versus having a plan?
I mean, I would say that a desire is something that you haven't actually like a plan. When you put something in plan, it's something that you are working on or you are about to work on. But a desire is something that you wish that you had it, but it's not like you are not physically or whatever it is like working on. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 4. Let's look at first to define a desire versus a plan. Okay? 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 4. It says that who desires all people to be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. This is God's desire. Are all people saved? So God has a desire. But when we go back to Psalm number 115, verse 3, it says that whatever God would will it, He gets it. But right here in 1 Timothy, it's telling us that God desires that all men to be saved, and yet not all men are saved. So it draws a line between what? The desire of God and then the will of God. And what I'm telling you this morning is that whatever God wills for your life, it involves a plan. Because when you are planning something, you are so careful. You have, it's like you set up the system, the structures. That is a plan, right? But when you have a desire, it could be a singular thing. You just have a desire for this thing, but you have not set it into a structural form. Are you following me? So God has a desire that all men to be saved. It doesn't mean that all men are going to be saved. But if God had willed that all men should be saved, then all men will be saved. Do you get it? Now the question is, why is it that God cannot achieve this desire? Why is it that God cannot achieve this desire? This 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 4.
Because we have a will.
Free will.
Yeah. God give us
Free will. Are you following me? Why is God giving us free will? That's a good question. Why is God giving human being free will?
Because if God didn't give us free will, then the love He has for us will be questionable.
The
Because,
love He has for us will be questionable.
yeah, because we'll be forced to love Him,
Okay.
whether we want it or not. And
That
that
is
is
good.
not love.
Okay. And that means that God will not have to judge us. Because if He's going to judge us, then we will have to have the option to choose or not to choose. But if God had made us in a form whereby we just have to what? Do what He wants us to do exactly, then there was no room for what? Judgment. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. He didn't make us robots. I'm trying to connect all the dots here. I've quoted several verses now. Now let's go back to Acts chapter 2, verse 23. Acts 2, verse 23, where it talks about the definite plan of God. It says that this Jesus delivered up according to the definite plan and foreknowledge of God. Do you know what a foreknowledge means? What is foreknowledge? Foreknowledge. Foreknowledge. What is it? Foreknowledge of God. Yes. What is foreknowledge of God?
Like in future.
In future.
Yeah.
Yeah. The foreknowledge of God is basically your life. Every choice that you will make, God knows it. Every choice that you are going to make, God knows it. So before God comes up with a definite plan, God has already considered all your choices. Are you following me? There is no choice that you make that will surprise Him. If God has a definite plan or a decretive will for you, a will for you, because what we are learning, I'm coming. What we are learning is that the will of God, it will be what? Achieved. Whatever God willeth, He will get it. It's like maybe you have died and you have left a will. You want your children to do this. You want your wife to do this, right? Sometimes they don't do it. We know it. They don't do it. But for God, if He has written a will concerning you, God will achieve what? His will. That is what the sovereign God does. And the reason why God will be able to achieve His will is because He knows all your choices. And He is not going to override your choice. He is going to allow you to make your choice. But at the end of the day, even your wrongful choice, it will still what? Fulfill His will. His definite plan. So when you go into the story of Jesus, we all know that God wanted, it was God's will for Jesus to be crucified. At the end of the day, Herod came up with a strategy that they have to what? Kill all babies at the time Jesus was born. But do you know that Herod's decision also fulfilled the will of God? Because God had already factored Herod's decision to kill babies at that time into His definite plan to crucify the Son. And it was actually a prophecy that Jeremiah had given over 400 years ago. Are you following me? Sister Felicia, ask your question, and then I will end with a closing thought.
I was going to ask if what we're talking about can be associated with predestination. Is it
Predestination. What is predestination? You are asking me. When we talk about predestination, anybody wants to take an attempt? Pre is pre. Okay. Predestination is what God had already set before you got born. Yeah, that's what predestination normally is. Something that God has already set ahead of time. Yeah. Yeah, so we have all been predestined for something. Right? God has already predestined us for something. And those things that God has already predestined us for, it includes your choices. Because God already knew the choices that you were going to make on the face of this earth. He knew where you were going to be born. You know, you didn't get to choose your skin color. You didn't get to choose your mom. You didn't get to choose your dad. Even though you have a free will, you realize that our free will is set within a boundary. There are certain things that we didn't get to choose. But we have the choice of what? Moral. We have the decision to make moral choices. Moral choices. Whether to choose God's way or to choose our own way. Okay? So predestination, yeah, this plays into, it brings predestination into it, okay? But this is what I want. I know this is a difficult study for us because what I'm trying to get to us is to add a level of understanding to the way we see God and how God has created us in this universe and in his ultimate plan, how he has created us. Because sometimes, I can't get my thoughts straight. But that during the campaign of President Trump, right, there was an assassination attempt on him in Philadelphia, whereby it was just a matter of him moving his head, and then the bullet went this way. If he had moved his head just that way, it would have gone straight to the head. You all saw the video. That is what this is all about. Sometimes God has a definite plan. God saw that there would be an assassination attempt on him. God incorporated it into the decree that he has ordained concerning the man, that this man will be a president of the United States. Okay? I believe that it was a decree of God. That is why that assassination missed. Because God is in heaven, and whatever he wills, he gets it. You get the point? Whatever he wills, he will be able to get it. Because that is what makes him sovereign. So at the end of the day, God will not stop the assassination attempt, but he uses an assassination attempt to even fulfill his will. Do you know what that assassination attempt did to my vote? When I got to the poll, that is what really prompted me to vote for him, because I was like, this man escaped death by a tiny second. And I think that God is up to something here. So I gave him my Kokomoti power. You don't like me. That was what.
Teacher, I think.
And I believe. Let me end.
Teacher, I think you're gonna get in trouble.
I'm coming.
For saying you voted for Trump.
I'm coming. Wait. Let me land. I know. But please hear me. Hear me out. Shh. Hear me out. Listen. I'm not the only one, because that incident emotionally affected the vote of many people. It affected the vote of many people. And it didn't affect Anti-Vix, but it affected mine. So hear me out. What I'm telling you is that, you see, God uses the negative to achieve his will. Look at the brothers of Joseph. God did not stop them from selling the boy into slavery. But at the end of the day, their decision, their envy, their greed, God used it. So what I'm telling you this morning is that every negative thing that is around your life that you think God has allowed, he's using it. He's using it. Okay? All right, we'll end here.
I actually forgot what I wanted to say.
Okay, go ahead.